All right, mate. How you doing?
Oh, good today.
Yeah,
Not as nice weather today, but all good.
yeah, same here, really. Um, let's talk some Better Call Saul season five spoilers then.
Season five.
So,
Season five.
what were your overall thoughts, or just a quick initial reaction now you've
Okay.
finished season five?
Uh, Initial reaction. I think it's my favorite season so far. Um, just the story, the unexpected turns, the the last couple of episodes, and how much now it feels like it's really leading into Breaking Bad. Um, and just how genius and clever the writing is. That's some of my initial thoughts anyway. It really cemented it as one of my favorite shows.
Yeah, yeah. No,
About you?
I'm the same as you. It's like all the things that it's been building up to for so long have finally started to happen,
Yeah.
but none of it would mean anything without the seasons that have come before.
No.
Um, there was some really unexpected things that happened, especially with Kim,
Yes. Yes.
um, and the ending with Lalo. But we'll get into that. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's my favorite season so far. Definitely,
Yeah.
it just keeps getting better and better as far as I'm concerned, and it's really fleshing out the Breaking Bad kind of Gillyverse.
Yeah.
Um, and I just can't wait for season six now.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah,
Whenever that will be.
I
Um.
know, I know. And Mike's getting older, isn't he?
Yeah.
Jonathan
That
Banks, yeah,
that's the thing that we'll talk about as well. Is like obviously there is a bit of continuity because like some they do look
yeah.
older. Um.
You get used to it and you forget about it though.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
You forget about it, but if you do ever like, I've went back and watched a few episodes of Breaking Bad recently, and Mike just looks
yeah.
like,
Mike's introduction in season two.
yeah,
He's quite young there, isn't he?
yeah. But it is what it is. At least we've got the same actors.
100%. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the beginning of the season and where the characters started out this season.
Hmm.
Um, Saul Goodman slash Jimmy McGill.
Yes. Yep.
He's just started his um, Better Call Saul practice now, lawyer practice. And he starts out by coming up with an idea to do 50% off, um, 50% off hiring him.
I'm just thinking about that little
And
montage.
it leads to one of the best scenes of one of the best montages of the whole show.
Yeah.
Those two guys, I can't remember their names, but they go off
No,
on an absolute mad bender,
a rampage.
on an absolute rampage, and
50% off.
some of the funniest parts of the entire show. Um,
Yeah.
so that's where he starts out, and Kim, especially linking to this, is not 100% sure this is a good idea at all.
No.
And that just shows you how far she goes in 10 episodes. Um,
Hmm.
yeah.
Just Kim's.
Um,
Sorry, we'll talk about Kim more later. I was bursting to talk about
yeah.
Kim.
Yeah.
Um,
And then well, what happens to Jimmy then is he's practicing all this law and he gets in trouble. Is it Crazy Eight or Domingo gets arrested? Is
yes,
that the right person I'm
I
thinking of?
believe so. Yeah, there are so
Yeah.
many names
Yeah.
now. It's
Yeah, he gets arrested, and they get Jimmy. Nacho picks Jimmy up and brings him back to Lalo, and they talk about representing Domingo at court. That's
yeah,
correct. Yeah. So that's how Jimmy gets involved
the cartel.
in the cartel. So how did you think that all went down?
Yeah, really clever. Didn't really, cause as you was saying before, like it's been building for seasons, and
Mm,
everything that came before was important. And
mm,
then like Mike and Jimmy have their stories have been so separate for a while, and they
yeah,
finally kind of found a way to introduce Jimmy to the cartel, which then introduces Jimmy to this big into the game, as they call it.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
And yeah, it's just what more do you expect really from the writers? I mean,
Mm.
like, isn't it
It's
Peter
just
Gould
so believable how it
and
all
Skilligan?
happens. Yeah.
It's really believable. Like none of it. It feels like this is just what happened. Like we're just seeing
Yeah.
what actually happened in this world,
Yeah.
and it doesn't feel forced.
I think Peter Gould said the show the show is less about what happens and more about how it happens. And I always
Yeah,
thought that that was a really cool way of explaining it.
it's a cool quote. Yeah.
Yeah. Um,
Um, yeah. No. Jimmy's whole introduction to all of that, or his further
hmm
involvement in the game, was just really cool to see.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but also quite like you're kind of just watching it going, oh,
And obviously that leads to one of the best parts of the season where he is representing Domingo and Hank comes in.
yes, yeah.
Hank and Gomi come in and they have a conversation, an interrogation.
Yes. Oh, that was such a treat, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And it's like a bluff on a bluff on a bluff because they're producing a lie. Um, and then also Gus is playing Lalo by
Yes.
not letting Nacho give anything away, or no, Nacho is informing Gus on everything
Yeah.
Lalo's doing, but Gus doesn't retaliate or do anything just because he wants to keep Nacho as the inside man.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What?
so
Yeah.
that's really awesome.
You see, just speaking about Gus, you see the lengths that Gus goes to then later in the season, what he does with the restaurant.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that was just like wow, like Gus is just like
Apparently that was a real
he'll
explosion. Yeah.
oh what you just realize that he'll just do anything to
So yeah, he
just
he
to
blows
win.
up when he blows up his own restaurant. How
Yeah.
that's edited and intersecting with Hank's stakeout as he's watching the no, hang on, I've got that wrong. It's the is that right? He's cleaning the deep fryer? That doesn't lead into him blowing the restaurant up though.
That's a
No.
different
That's a separate scene. Yeah,
but
yeah.
that is
But
also cool.
that's really cool how he's cleaning the
Yeah.
fryer whilst Hank is stalking the drop that's going to be picked up. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's just sitting at his table like with the cell phone, like flip phone, just sat in front of it,
Yeah.
just like staring at it. And then he'll just like, at the end, he's just like, "It will do."
He's fantastic.
Yeah, he really is. He's
Yeah.
such a delight to watch.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about where Mike is at the
Okay.
beginning of the season and how he's broken because of the death of I can't remember his name, the German guy from season 4.
Werner.
Yeah. So he's killed by Mike at the end of season 4,
Yeah,
and now
yeah,
Mike's really struggling with that.
yeah. You can tell he's really struggling with it, and just with his further involvement in his just of killing people and involved in all of that now. Like he's
hmm
bad choice road.
Yeah, and he eventually ends up walking past a rough neighborhood,
Yes.
and he gets started on by by like a gang or some youths, and
Yeah.
he kind of takes one out and threatens the others, and he kind of I don't know you can see how self-destructing it is because then he walks again down the same road. Kind of, it seems like he's looking for a fight,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
obviously he nearly dies by being stabbed.
Yeah. That's right. And then he goes into Gus's retreat.
That
Not
was
really the nicest retreat,
I
but
loved all of that.
yeah.
That village that Gus kind of controls.
Yeah.
Really cool.
It's just yeah, really cool seeing all of Gus's inner workings and
Well, and that leads into how Gus is manipulating Mike to become involved with him because
yeah.
he brings in the revenge motive and says
Yeah.
this is why you need to do this. Revenge for the death of your son. You know, it's really
Gus
cool
is-
because I always thought, why would Mike get that involved with Gus? And it just makes sense after
It
that
does.
episode. Yeah,
Yeah, you're right. It just is kind of one of those missing pieces of the puzzle.
yeah,
That like kind of Mike is nearly at what he was in Breaking Bad now.
mm.
Um, is the guy that comes in and
Yeah, yeah,
cleans up.
seamless.
Yeah,
Yeah.
seems like it's gonna be seamless. Yeah.
um. Okay. The next thing for Mike is as the first job he has as Gus's best man, is now to find a way to get Lalo in jail.
Yeah.
So he frames Lalo for a crime that he hasn't done, doesn't he? And then
Yeah.
sets up the arrest by phoning it in to the police. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which was really clever.
Yeah. Really, really interesting. What was your impression then of like what was going to happen at Lalo at that point? Like,
I was a little bit thrown off because I was like, oh no, Lalo, he's got into jail. I was like expecting him to be out and about, kind of intimidating people.
yeah,
Didn't expect him to be in jail for half the show,
yeah,
half the season. But obviously
no,
it makes sense because that's how it links in with Jimmy now.
yeah. There are a lot of things that happen in this season like that. Like you think it's going to go one way and just completely goes the other way.
Yeah,
And
but
that's being one of them.
it makes perfect sense.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. You think, why didn't I think of that?
Okay, back to Jimmy. So at this point, he's representing, or just I think it's just before he's representing Lalo. He's approached by Howard and offered a job. I think it's in the first couple of episodes.
Yeah.
And obviously he doesn't take this well.
No.
What does he do? He throws bowling balls.
Yeah, he throws bowling balls and then he sets up that whole awkward situation whenever Howard's out for dinner with like a client or someone
And
really important.
Calls in
And he
prostitutes.
hires the prostitutes in to sabotage him. I personally I thought that was a real stretch for Jimmy, just to show how
yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
How conniving and just kind of I don't know, just
diabolical.
Diabolical. Yeah. It was just
The way I saw it is,
I don't know how I felt about that.
The way I saw it was kind of the way everything went down with Chuck.
Yeah.
And how he's clearly suppressed all those emotions, or at least he's convinced himself, or even he doesn't care about Chuck, but maybe deep down something's quite wrong about everything that happened with Chuck. That's been suppressed so far down in Jimmy that it might have been manifested with the way he acted out on Howard.
Well, yeah, but I suppose as well, I'm trying to think about why he's just got that. He really, really wanted a job there in earlier seasons.
Yeah.
And that would have been just to be accepted as a lawyer. Like he just wanted to be.
Yeah, and clearly Howard's not doing anything wrong. He's being quite reasonable, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he is one of those kind of perfect, high-earning lawyers that Jimmy probably just he's done with all that now, and he's just thinking now that he's probably taking some offense to this job offer. Maybe, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that kind of sets up a lot of plot points with Howard later on in the season as well. How he confronts Kim, but we'll get to that. What about Nacho? Gus has a gun to Nacho's dad's head,
Yeah,
which seems so dark.
it's really really dark.
Yeah.
I feel like in this season and kind of last season, like Nacho kind of has, my opinion of him has changed slightly. Like I used to find him like in the first couple of seasons, like he was sort of just like a bit of a, I didn't really care that much for him.
Yep.
And in the last two seasons now, when he's, he's kind of really come out into his own as a character. And I really hope that he makes it out alive, but
Well, yeah. So to quickly catch up there, he's being forced to work for Gus,
yeah,
and he wants to get out of the game with Lalo.
yeah,
So he's trying to get out of the cartel, trying to move on and escape, basically. And then he can't do that because now Gus has approached him after everything that happened with Hector. You know, you are mine now. That whole scene.
yeah,
So basically, Nacho has to do everything. He has to get closer and closer to Lalo because that's what Gus wants, and that leads into him being Lalo's first man. You know, his lieutenant almost.
yeah.
So let's just go straight into it. Those last 3 episodes, all 3 of them together. It's 3. Would you agree with me? 3 of the best episodes we've ever seen from this show, or even Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I'd probably stretch that far as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of just, especially the one in the desert for the start.
Bagman.
Is it Bagman? Yeah.
Yeah.
What a an episode.
Directed by Vince Gilligan.
Directed by Vince Gilligan. Yeah. And I think he said that it was one of the biggest challenges of his career so far.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever they had rearranged it, I think it was after El Camino that they said we want to bring you in for an episode, and the episode that we want to bring you in for is a good one. Like you're gonna really.
Yeah, well, there's a classic shootout, but completely from the perspective of Jimmy.
Yeah, what a challenge!
And the acting on Bob Odenkirk's part there, how you can really see the trauma setting in, and how like his reaction to what's going on around him is brilliant. Scary. It's quite scary.
Yeah, it is a bit scary, yeah. And it also gives Mike that more of a like I personally didn't think it was Mike whenever there was someone shooting.
Yeah.
And then he appears and like of course it's Mike. Like, Mike is just a man now, so
and now these two are forced together to survive in the desert as there's one guy gets away.
Yes, how annoying for them.
Yeah, and their car breaks down.
Yeah.
So they ditch the car and they gotta walk. It's like 30 miles or something, or less, maybe a bit less.
Through the something like that. Yeah.
Some great scenes.
Yeah. Some excellent shots in the desert too. Just like felt like a bit like those desert episodes in Breaking Bad.
It reminded me of Walter White wheeling his barrel of money back in Ozymandias.
I just got a really funny image of him pushing it in my head.
Yeah.
It was a bit like that. Yeah, that desperation, and just kind of like how have they got to this point? Like,
yeah. And obviously you learn about Mike. Fantastic acting. How he breaks down. Jimmy's giving up, and Mike tells him. Jimmy says to Mike, "How do you do this?" And he tells him about what keeps him going and his granddaughter.
Yeah.
What did you think about that?
Powerful.
Yeah.
Powerful and emotional, and kind of gives it created more of that sort of bond between Jimmy and Mike. You know, they've got a
Mhm.
better understanding of each other now. Because
Yeah,
before, like whenever Jimmy and Mike interacted, like they were just really irritated with each other all of the time.
yeah, yeah,
And this kind of made them have like a common goal, was just to survive, and I feel like this was really big turning point for Jimmy in his whole
yeah,
life.
yeah,
Like having to drink your own pee for a
yeah.
start is just a massive.
Well, before he does that, I think his realization is after Mike tells him about what keeps him going, he realizes like I can't let myself die. I've got to keep going
Oh,
For
for
Kim.
Kim, yeah, and he does eventually allude to that later when he
Yeah,
tells her that.
yeah. And obviously he knows as well. Oh no, he. Well, at the same time this is happening, Kim has gone to see Lalo, um,
Yeah,
which is scary for
worrying and terrifying.
worrying. Yeah, worrying for Kim.
Yeah, as soon
she's
as I saw
she's
that
in the
happening,
game now. She's in
like
the game now.
yeah, she's in the game, and I thought, oh, he's just seen her face. You
Yeah,
know, he just knows her now. Like,
and then
well, that's
so
yeah,
I was just going to go on and say that I think when Mike really gets some respect for Jimmy as well is when that car's coming towards them and Jimmy just starts walking out in front into the road so the car can see him.
yeah,
And he knows like this is the one chance for Mike to, shoot the
yeah.
car. Yeah. Kind of
Which
like a
means
trapped that guy.
which
And the
means he's
car.
culpable. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 and Mike respects him there. At least that's what I thought. And then, what did you think to that stunt with the car flip?
Oh, insane, amazing. Yeah, but yeah, going back to that point before, yeah, Jimmy's culpable, and I think that eats him up as well. You
Mm,
know that he's
mm,
now involved in
true.
someone's death.
Yep. Yeah.
You know, he walked out there thinking, right, Mike's gonna get a chance of a shot here, as you said,
That's a good
and
point. Yeah.
it's a really big step.
Yeah.
You know, and then we can talk a bit about Breaking Bad, can't we?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course. Oh,
Um,
Breaking Bad spoilers as well.
yeah. Because you know, like whenever Saul kind of says later in Breaking Bad, he's like, send him to Belize, and you're just kind of like, whoa, like he's kind of just saying like, go on, like
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
get him killed.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you're like that kind of, links quite well to that as well, because like that he has a
He,
real hand in murder.
yeah. He'll eventually. This
He
is like
doesn't pull the trigger.
this episode was the first kind of steps into him having less empathy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. He doesn't pull. He's not the one that pulls the trigger, but he is. He definitely has an influence.
Yeah. But it's
Uh,
also that's also a survival thing as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And he can be. We've seen before that he can be quite selfish.
Absolutely. So yeah, some major character growth there for Mike and Jimmy. Um, and then the next episode, Bad Choice Road, I believe it's called. Um, so this is Jimmy dealing with his trauma quite a lot.
Mhm.
Um, and it also ends with the scene of where, so no, Lalo is gonna leave now, isn't he? And
Yeah,
there's that really tense moment when you realize he's waiting at the well, and he goes back to Nacho, and he says, no,
yeah,
let's let's go check out what happened because Jimmy obviously had told him his story.
yeah.
He goes to check it out, and obviously the car's there, and he sees a bullet hole in the car. Someone's been lying. And how tense is that whole sequence where he goes back to find Kim and Jimmy? Talk a little bit
Oh,
about that.
yeah. So tense. And as soon as that door opens and you see his face, it doesn't really let up from that, even from the doorbell ringing and the whole experience. And then, like, oh no, sorry, it was even before that when Mike calls Jimmy and
Hmm.
he's just like, put your phone somewhere that I can hear. And it's just like, oh no, and then the or the door knocks, and then Lal's at the door. Um, and I actually have to say, I was quite worried, like at that point about, you know,
For both of them,
Kim,
yeah.
for
Yeah.
both of them actually, yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously not for Jimmy dying, but
Mhm.
yeah, because I feel so. We'll come back to Kim after. I was going to just go straight into the
Yeah.
Kim thing again, but we
Yeah,
need to
yeah.
really talk about Kim. But
Okay.
yeah, that whole scene really, really, really tense. And I heard that whenever it originally aired in the US, that they had no ad breaks and they had like a 16-minute like uninterrupted build up to that whole part.
To keep the tension
To
in
keep the
place.
tension.
Yeah.
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 No, it's. What did you think of the whole situation?
Amazing. Because it brought it just showed you how good Kim is as a lawyer because
Yeah, yeah,
she's using those skills to change the way Lalo's thinking. Like he comes in and he knows that they're lying. And she manages to convince him that he was wrong,
yeah,
or to prove that there's reasonable doubt that they could be telling the truth
yeah.
and that it wasn't a lie and that what he thinks is wrong. So that was a really, really great scene. And it all just builds up because of what happens in the next episode. It just keeps building and building to Lalo's ending. But yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about Kim
Oh, well, do you want from Kim in this episode or just Kim in general?
in general? Because she was
Um,
probably one of the best parts of the season.
she was definitely like for me, she was definitely one of the best parts of the season, and
Mm-hmm.
I've always thought Kim was one of my favorite characters in the whole show. Because I think that I don't know how she hasn't got an Emmy yet from
I
her
was just
acting.
going to say we need to
Rhea
talk about the acting.
Rhea Seehorn. Like, I mean,
Yeah,
if there's one actress or one actor in that show that can just pull off so much with just a facial expression,
yeah.
like she's just so good. Like she's just
It's like the writing and the acting and the camera work, the music,
oh
everything together. They all elevate each other to a
oh they really do.
to create this thing that's some I don't really know how to express it, but it's to create this masterpiece of filmmaking.
Yeah. And there's so many little moments with Kimmy and Jim as well. Like one of my favorite moments from this season was, in episode 3,
Hmm.
um, when they are having the beers on the
Hmm.
balcony,
Hmm.
and there's like the little kind of metaphor where like the beers just he sets the bottle like on the
On the
balcony,
edge.
and
Yeah,
it's like you're like looking at it like, and you kind of just feel the whole like, oh, why would you do that? Like it's
it's
a
great.
risk. And
Yeah,
then that's at the start of the episode, and then by the end of the episode, she just grits it and chucks it. She's just like, right, okay, this is it. Like I'm taking this. Like,
well, something that we've completely skipped over, which is to do with Kim, is everything to do with Mesa Verde and how Jimmy creates the advert to how they kind of work together to take down the guy that's the head of the bank. I can't remember his name. Kim's client's Mesa Verde.
yeah,
Um, and what her decisions are around that and how she's there's that guy that lives out there and they want to build a call center on his house and
yeah,
this is where she starts to make those decisions is she starts to use the Better Call Saul type uh you know hustling almost to kind of get her own way.
hmm
um and this eventually leads to her leaving Mesa Verde. Talk a little
yes,
bit about that, how she makes that decision.
yeah. So she there's another thing we haven't mentioned as well, and that
Go for it,
is
yeah.
that Jimmy in that room whenever they're going through and Jimmy is showing the evidence and he has doctored it obviously to show the video of how the logo came about
Yep.
for
Yep.
yeah
Yep.
and Kim is just floored and is a bit, you can visibly see that she's just kind of shocked because Jimmy has
How?
sort of betrayed her because he hasn't fully been honest
Y-
with her.
Yeah, that's
Um,
true. They have an agreement, and then Kim backs
yeah,
out, but Jimmy keeps going.
no,
Yeah,
Jimmy keeps
yeah,
going and he really goes for it. Like he goes
yeah,
full Saul Goodman on all of them, and
yeah.
she's just a bit like taken aback. And then like there's the confrontation at the end of that episode where you
Mhm.
think Kim is just this is maybe her turning point now where she's gonna try and
Brilliant,
out.
brilliant scene,
And
brilliant
then it's
scene.
like bang at the end of the episode, like marry me,
Unless we get married.
and then cut to black, um, and then the start of the next episode. And oh, that wedding we haven't. I don't think we've talked about this. The wedding, the
Mhm,
whole aspect of
mhm,
them getting married. I should say
mhm,
wedding.
mhm.
Um, really, really interesting because you can tell by both of their faces that they're kind of like, oh, this is a really big moment, but um,
How casual they are about it.
yeah, they're really casual
Yeah,
about it, but they're also you can tell there's definitely like feelings
something
and
there,
meaning there.
something
There's a
there.
meaning
Yeah,
there,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. You know, and it's very them to have that kind of
Mm.
relationship to be getting married like that for part of like a grander scheme of things, so that they're not able to get
Yeah, it's
the
like
legal couple.
I think I heard on the Ringer, the podcast, the Ringer, that Kim's doing this because no matter she's starting, she always wants to be in control of the situation, so she wants to know everything that's happening with Jimmy, and to get married is like to completely trust one another. And it's either don't get married or do get married because she can't go on without knowing everything. So
Yeah, that's interesting.
that's one reason.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Well, the other one was that they mentioned as well is that it's to do with legal as well.
Yeah, they can't
Yeah.
testify against each other.
No,
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
Um, no, there's a lot of complex issues there with Jimmy and
Hmm.
Kim, but no, Kim though, like we think that I thought that I had an idea that Kim was going to be it was going to be a tragic. Like my understanding for Kim was that my prediction was that Kim was going to be it's going to be a tragic ending for Kim,
Hmm. Hmm.
and she's not going to want to be involved in the Saul Goodman life,
Hmm.
and that was my understanding. I don't know if that was yours,
So go on, explain about
but
what she says to Jimmy about Howard.
but yeah, but probably
Yeah.
the biggest twist,
Hmm.
arguably one of the biggest twists of the season, is that
Hmm.
she is then getting some kind of thrill out of this and is
Hmm.
enjoying it and
Hmm.
wants to continue more and destruct Howard.
She
Like
comes up with an
she,
idea.
yeah. So it all
Hmm.
becomes about because Howard meets Kim and like asks to have a word with her, and then they have a word with each other, and Howard tells us tells Kim about what we were talking about earlier about the bowling balls and the prostitution plots,
Hmm. Hmm.
and Kim just bursts out laughing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
like
You
and
can
completely another
really
reaction that I didn't expect.
you really
Like
see that she's changing. Like,
she's really changing. Yeah,
yeah.
she's thinking like, oh, brilliant. Yeah, sucker like Howard, hypothetic. you
Mm.
know. And then she talks to Jimmy about it and starts to then form her own way. And you spoke about Bob Odenkirk's acting before. How good was it in
Hmm.
those scenes as well? Like just
Brilliant.
watching her, he's just kind
Yeah.
of like, I don't know how to
Uh,
feel about this. Like
and there's
this
that
is
look
not.
in her eye. There's that look in her eye when she's like, "I'm serious about this," and
Yeah,
it's just scary. You're like,
yeah,
"Holy
really
moly!"
scary. Holy moly. Um,
um, but yeah, brilliant, brilliant ending there because she's the driving the thing that's driving her to do that is good. She eventually wants to be able to own her own lawyer firm where she's just helping pro bono clients, helping the people that don't get that corporate level lawyer help.
yeah,
So she wants to do it for good. She in the scheme they will get all the money they're owed from the Sandpiper lawsuit, but they have to f over Howard.
yeah,
They have to ruin him.
yeah,
That's where they have to do. They can't just ruin him. They have to make it look like he's done something unforgivable.
Yeah. Yeah. Roll credits.
So yeah, and at the same time that's happening, they're very nervous because they think Lalo could potentially come back and get them. So Jimmy's talking to Mike about what's happening with Lalo.
Yeah.
And this is where Mike tells him it's sorted. Lalo will be dead by tomorrow.
And,
so,
when Mike...
Nacho... Sorry, go ahead, yeah.
I was just going to say, naturally, whenever, Mike or Gus says that, you just believe it.
Yep. I was convinced the scene coming would be the assassination of Lalo.
Yeah, so was I. I was so convinced that there was no way that Gus or Mike could have this set up that it could fail. But then, we're underestimating Lalo? And then do you want to describe what...
Yeah, so, well, we'll start with this. What did you think about how... So you see the camera shot is this giant wall with a guard, and there's this car coming up, and the radio goes, there's an SUV coming in, don't recognize it. And the guy gets his gun out, and he's like waiting, and the car pulls in, and he's pointing the gun at the window. The window rolls down. It's Lalo, like, hey!
It's so funny.
That's why I love him. He's like, I think Jeremy Jahns might have said it best. He's like the guy that you would want at your barbecue. You'd want him there to have beers and chill with. That's where he's different from Gus. But at the same time, he will kill every single person you love and care about. That's
a good explanation. Yeah, that's pretty much him. Yeah, he is a really, really likable guy when he's not, killing your whole family.
Absolutely. So he introduces Nacho into the family, and Nacho's like, "What am I doing here? Like, that's it. I'm gonna go meet the Don. I'm gonna become part of the family." And he gets a call saying, "Open the north gate." Yeah. And that's as soon as that happens, that's where the tension just cranks right up.
Yeah. And then he gets up and tries to go and unlock, and goes to walk around the corner.
Hang on, wait. Have they at this point they've met Don Eladio by this point?
Yeah, they've met Don Eladio before.
This all happened beforehand. Yeah. Which was all great, by the way. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Absolutely brilliant, and tension in that scene as well.
Nacho proving himself to Don Eladio.
Yeah, and I found myself kind of like willing him on too. Like, I'm just kind of like, oh, come on, you need to like say the right things here. Like,
you do find yourself wanting the character you're watching to succeed in every scene that they're in, which is great writing.
Yeah, it's even the
characters you don't necessarily
despicable, awful characters.
Even Gus.
Even Gus, yeah. I don't want Gus to get screwed over. But then I'm like, well, he's just like an absolute
He's an idiot.
He's a monster.
He's a horrible person.
He's an absolute.
He's not an idiot. He's just a monster. Yeah.
And I would argue he's a psychopath.
He's just so hell-bent on revenge and getting this...
Yeah, but just...
He's building a drug empire in retaliation to the drug empire that ruined him and his partner. Yeah.
Flying in a team of people from Germany in secret to build like a underground lab.
It's great.
It's just... Yeah, it's... Yeah, you believe it though because it's Gus Fring. The character is so well built that you're just.
Okay, back to Ignacio and the gate. Who does he see when he goes out to open the gate at 3 a.m. or whatever?
Of course, Lalo, who's a light sleeper.
Yeah. You think he?
By the fire.
I think we spoke about this off camera before. We thought we both had the same reaction that we thought Lalo knew that Nacho was going to betray him. And then he just starts going on about sleeping issues.
Yeah. And you're just still thinking. I still was thinking though, like, is this still just a bit of manipulation here?
Absolutely,
Like,
yeah.
is he just gonna turn on him at one point?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, is this like, we talked about how we thought this was gonna be Lalo's assassination. I was thinking, is this gonna be like Nacho's ending here? Like, is Lalo gonna kill him?
Yep.
That was what was going through my head at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get the whole plot forming in Nacho's head. He's desperate. Because obviously Nacho, as you said before, Nacho's thinking of his dad the whole time. You
Yep.
know, that's his whole motivation to
Mm-hmm.
survive.
Mm-hmm. Same reason he goes into the drug den at the beginning,
Yeah,
risking himself when the police are about to raid it. It's the same
yeah,
thing driving him. Yeah.
yeah. He's got a real drive. But then, yeah, we have the whole frying pan, the
Yeah.
infamous frying pan,
Oil in the
the
frying
oil,
pan. Yeah.
the oil in the frying pan, yeah. And
Just as a distraction, as a decoy to get Lalo
right,
inside. Yeah.
yeah. And Lalo just like shouting like, "Hey, what's going on?" Like,
um, and obviously he manages to open the lock and let the assassins in,
yeah,
the kind of black market SWAT team to go and
yeah.
yeah.
And you surely think, oh, well, Lalo's gone, you know.
And what
But
happens is absolutely incredible. All the filmmaking, the tension, the build up, the music, Lalo spotting the guy out the window and immediately like forming a plan in his head.
he had a human shield as well,
Mm.
you know, at the first point, and then uses the frying pan, and then the whole thing with like the tunnel under the bathtub is so cool.
And I don't know about you, as he's taking out the assassins one by one, I was getting this feeling of this is just incredibly satisfying to watch.
Yeah,
It just
I
was.
know. That's
Yeah.
the thing. Like, as much as Lalo is
The biggest threat.
terrible,
He's the biggest threat to everyone now because his family have been murdered. So
yeah,
you
and
don't want him to survive, but at the same time, as he's killing all of Gus's assassins, you're just like, hell yes.
yeah, yeah. It just kind of adds that extra layer to how
Mhm.
powerful and clever he is as well.
Yeah,
Like, he's not he's got so many gifts in so many ways. Like he can outrun assassins, you know,
outmaneuver them as well. Yeah,
outmaneuver assassins.
mm.
Yeah.
So
He
cool.
can maneuver himself out of jail for a $7 million bail,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
He's got this whole family situation. He can, yeah, just a really powerful guy. Uh,
And now, I think he was sort of business as usual seasons 4 and 5. He was just the Salamanca guy, the friendly guy, trying to keep the business running, watching out for Gus. But now he's going to be out for revenge for everyone,
yeah,
absolutely everyone. And
yeah.
and how does that sequence end with him going after Nacho?
Yeah, he just walks away with that face and the eyes of,
Mm.
I am going to unleash.
And it's set the way that is set up for season 6.
The final season.
It's just unbelievable because we're going to have two main storylines now. We're going to have Lalo coming after everyone, and then we're also going to have Kim and Jimmy trying to take down Howard.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's
Never.
shaping up to
Yeah,
be amazing.
yeah. And the whole takedown of Howard is actually really interesting, and it kind of brings Howard's story back in as well, ties him into the whole grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
Because Howard just kind of has been jumping in and out in the last season or two.
Hmm.
But now it's just going to be a real arc for him as well, which is probably not going to be as a great arc for Howard, but um, yeah. Um, what would your what would you say then about Kim and Jimmy's journey? Okay, so recently there's been a suggestion in an interview that um, Kim may there's always a possibility that Kim lives and
Yeah,
survives. Just because she's
yeah.
not in Breaking Bad
She might be in
doesn't.
jail.
She might. Yeah. Well, that's a good point. She might be in jail. She might be out there somewhere. We just don't see her because we don't really see a huge amount of Saul in Breaking Bad.
Hmm.
Um, or there's also the theory as well that the thing with Jean in the future,
Hmm.
that like her and Jimmy reunite in the future
Potentially, yeah. Yeah, that would be
if
cool.
she's still alive.
Hmm.
And we haven't really discussed Jean either.
Yeah,
We'll
so
have to get on to that.
let's talk about that. The Each season you get fed a sequence at the beginning of the premiere
Yeah,
of how Jimmy's doing after, or how Saul is doing after Breaking Bad, and he's just running this little shop in a mall, um, undercover. And the minute in this sequence he gets found out that he's the guy who used to be on the TV, Saul
yeah,
Goodman. You're Saul Goodman, and he immediately takes this as they've found me, you know.
yeah, yeah,
And he goes to the vacuum man. He rings him up. Robert Forrester, is that his name? The actor?
yeah. Robert
Yeah,
Forster sadly
yeah,
passed away.
yeah. Rest in peace. He's a great character in the show, isn't he? And
Yeah,
then
he
El
is.
Camino. But no, he calls him up to get evacuated, to be extracted from
Yeah,
where he is. And he has a change of heart halfway through the conversation, and it ends with him going to face whoever's come to find him.
yeah.
So, what do you think that means for season 6?
Um, for season 6, I don't, I don't really know. I don't really know how it's going to lead in. Like he's going, something's going to go down.
Yeah,
Whether it ends up with him getting caught, or and finally having to lip face up to what he's done. You know,
do you know, I'd
um,
never even thought of this, but I've just thought of it. What if he dies?
in the future,
Yeah.
could do.
Mm,
He could die.
mm.
He could die. He could go to jail, as you said about Kim went to jail, or could go to jail,
Potentially.
potentially go to jail.
She doesn't die. Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
knows?
A lot of potential.
Yeah, and as we were saying before with this show, you can't. It's really hard to predict what way it's going to end up.
Did you enjoy the future sequences?
Yeah, yeah, I do because they're very rare,
Mm.
and I like that they're in black and white.
Hmm.
It's like an
Yeah.
added cool element to it. It kind of distinguishes it from the others as well. There's also a scene like that sticks out, that doesn't really belong either. Is that the flash forward scene that is in the Breaking Bad timeline, or in the Breaking Bad period? It's in season 4, I believe.
Right.
Whenever it's there's like a flash forward scene whenever Saul is getting ready to leave and go to Robert Forster's character, and him and
Okay.
Fran, and him
Okay.
and
I
isn't it
can't
Fran?
remember this. His assistant.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah. I don't know
yeah.
what her
That
name
they're
is.
they're
Can't
they're
remember.
both. Yeah, I think it's Fran, and they're
Hmm.
both in his his like office that he
Hmm.
has in Breaking Bad.
Hmm.
It's in Better Call Saul in season 4. There's a scene where they're both frantically trying to pack everything up, and packing up his money and everything because he's going to get out of town because everything has gone down with Walt. But yeah, that was another little scene that was added in. So I
Hmm.
thought, is there going to be more
Hmm.
scenes set during the Breaking Bad
Yeah. Yeah.
period in future?
Okay. Yeah. Hmm. Maybe.
So
Well, there's 13 episodes in,
is it 13?
yeah, for season 6.
Oh,
So it's
nice.
going to be more. Um, and there's also one other scene that was kind of a wait. There's two other scenes I want to bring up. Two that I really liked, and that's Kim's backstory, or Kim's flashback. Sorry, not backstory, where she's waiting for her mum to pick her up, and she ends up just walking
Mm,
home. That was really cool. And I want to shout out the ice cream ant montage,
Yeah.
which was all shot by one guy on the street. They brought the ants in. They flew ants in from California to Albuquerque and recreated the street in a cornered off. I'm not sure where it was, whether it was a soundstage or actually on the road. And then they, yeah, it's crazy. They flew ants in from California to do this, even though there's ants everywhere. And the guy just shot it with his camera, like in a super close up, and it's no CGI or anything. It's just so cool.
Yeah, it is really cool.
And they get that
It did stand
yodeling,
out.
the yodeling music that goes over it as well.
Yeah, but that's just the unique style, though, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
You know, it's a unique style of the show as well. Like all those openings that can be completely random, but they just
Yeah.
are. They fit so perfectly. You know.
yeah,
And it was sort of like that in Breaking Bad as well. You know the thing with like the teddy bear in the swimming pool and
yeah.
stuff.
Season 2.
So
yeah.
that kind of reminds me of.
Yeah,
Um,
that's really cool.
just laughing at myself there thinking about like the pizza on the roof. Yeah. Oh,
That's great.
yeah.
I was just going to say that I think we have to mention how masterfully done all the filmmaking, editing, the music choices, the acting, and especially the writing, how it all just gels together so perfectly to create what is probably my favorite show now.
That's at the moment. At the moment, you mean?
Probably this and Breaking Bad together is my second favorite show of all time now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely up there for me as well. But you're right. Yeah, we've focused so much on the characters, haven't we?
And the story, yeah.
The story. But no, yeah, the whole talent behind the camera.
The stunts,
Fantastic.
the production.
Yeah,
It's just amazing.
Yeah, it feels like the stunts and the production really came out this season as well.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And you know something I was thinking of as well? Remember the whole setup? I think it was season 1. Whenever Jimmy falls off, or the guy pretends to fall off the billboard, and like Jimmy tries to save him. All of those little things that you just kind of forget that happened. Like,
yeah.
Absolutely.
No, I need to rewatch the whole thing.
Yeah, so do I.
Yeah.
Just all the stuff with Chuck as well. You know, that was so important to Jimmy's story.
Yeah. You're right. Everything that happened is
so important.
It's so important. Yeah. You can't just have these events now without everything that came before it.
Yeah, and it was really slow. I know we've discussed this before, but it was so slow for a couple of seasons, and it was just, it was lawyer heavy, and like, all the ins and outs of that, and Chuck's relationship with Jimmy, and all of that unraveling. But I look back on it even more fondly now.
Yeah.
With knowing what has now come, because it's such good setup.
It is, yeah.
If you look at like the things that Jimmy was doing in the first couple of seasons that we thought were a bit, unethical, and
like the photocopying sequence.
Yeah.
I love
that. Like the doctoring. That's another example, as you say, of everybody coming together. Like the editing.
Yeah.
Like the set locations.
Mm-hmm. Chuck's
directing.
The foil all over Chuck's house.
Oh yeah,
so great.
And there's a whole montage or like a scene as well where Chuck is taking apart his house, isn't there? Like he completely just like goes into his house. There's just so much, and all of that stuff as well. That really the episode that really stands out is Jimmy in the courtroom.
Yeah,
it's like kind of like,
remember what it's called,
sort of like
the or something.
Something like that. It's sort of like the roast of Chuck McGill kind of thing. Like it's just
proving him wrong. Yeah,
and you could argue that eventually was one of the factors in Chuck's death.
Yeah, it's all a knock-on effect. Everything that happens, and it all begins with Jimmy and Chuck's relationship as through their whole life. It all stems from there, like the way they saw each other and treated each other.
Yeah.
It all comes from that.
Was it season 4? Or season? Yeah, it was season 4, I think, where there was the flashback and Chuck came back, and it was them two singing, doing karaoke together.
The winner takes it all.
Winner takes it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was so
That was
good.
great. Yeah. Sad, really.
Yeah, really sad, really tragic story for Chuck.
Mm.
And Jimmy, yeah. But then again, we've seen a little bit about how Chuck treated Jimmy, and Chuck always felt a bit jealous of Jimmy, really, didn't he?
Absolutely.
Jimmy got the girls, and Chuck's thing was being a lawyer. Yeah. He didn't want Jimmy to kind of have that as well.
I listened to an interview with the actor that plays Chuck. What's his name again?
Michael McKean.
Yeah, I watched an interview with him, and what he said was that Chuck resented Jimmy because Jimmy could make people like him.
Yeah.
And Chuck had absolutely everything except what Jimmy could do with that.
Yeah.
And that's what he said in that interview. And I really thought, wow, that's some deep stuff right there.
And that's it then. And that kind of is sort of the, Chuck was a lawyer, and he's just, Jimmy was then becoming a good lawyer, and he's just like, Jimmy can have everybody, Chuck wasn't as really as social as Jimmy, and struggled in that end of things, Yeah. So, but yeah,
absolutely incredible show. Anyway, I'm so excited for season 6, but it's obviously going to be delayed because of COVID.
Yeah,
I find myself worrying about any of the actors getting corona. Start worrying about that. Like, I don't want to be selfish. Like, I need to see season 6, but it's like, I do worry about like Mike, Jonathan Banks getting COVID or something like that.
Well, yeah, that's it is a worry. It's a worry about anyone getting it, but
Oh yeah, 100%. Like, I'm obviously more worried about like family, and friends, and things like that.
I know, of course. Yeah, you're not it's Jonathan Banks and then my mum. No, completely. I agree with you in that sense. Like it's not selfish or anything to feel worried about someone like your favorite actors. It's they're.
I just can't wait for season
spend
6.
so much time with them.
Yeah, it's going to be like the final piece of the whole story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This could be the end of the Gillyverse.
Could be. Gilly did say.
Gilly. We call him Billy Gilly.
Gilly did say that he would happily work in the Gillyverse for the rest of his life. So I don't know if that will happen though.
Yeah. It's very good news. That's really good news.
But yeah, if you were to give it, I know you don't like scoring things, but just for fun, if you were to give it a score out of 10, the show on a whole and this season on a whole.
You never want to give it 10.
Any nitpicks? Because we have been just talking about positives the whole time.
We actually have not said one negative thing about the show.
Yeah.
And I would really, really, really be struggling here.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a problem now, but I know that there was frustration over the years that Jimmy and Mike's stories were just so separate, and they just, they weren't very well connected.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of things that happened in the show, like Howard and things after Chuck, that like characters kind of separated. Like Nacho was off, Mike was off, Howard's not really in the picture. It's all
scattered.
We're all spread out.
Yeah.
But when I look back on that now, and it didn't really bother me that much at the time, I was for me it was about I just really wanted to see Saul and Mike together, or like Jimmy and Mike together, because that just reminded me of Breaking Bad, and they've just two actors of that caliber and their chemistry. But yeah,
It's
not
like
really.
now we have the whole show, or at least up to
Yeah,
season 5. It's like it makes sense that it was all like
yeah.
that. Like you wouldn't want it any differently now.
No, no, not at all.
So
All
for
of it
me,
seems
I'd give it a 10, and I'd give this season a 10. So
okay.
both masterpieces, 10 out of 10. And that doesn't necessarily mean they are perfect. It just means like I want to give it a 10. That's what it means.
Well, yeah, I would say I want
Yeah.
to give it a 10 too, if you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great show, perfect show.
Absolutely. Right, I think we're just gone over about an hour now, so I think that's good. We covered pretty much everything. Oh, well, I'm sure there's some things that we missed, but it doesn't matter. We covered most things.
Spend like another episode just talking about Tuco, or
We could do a show review. How about
a whole show review. A Gilly,
that?
whenever
Yeah.
this is all over, we should
A
do a
Gillyverse
Gillyverse
review.
video. Yeah, definitely, including El Camino.
So yeah, any final thoughts, Dale?
Final thoughts. Final thoughts. I can't wait for season 6. I'm more excited than I have been for any other season already.
Yeah. Yeah.
Season 5 is my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
Lalo is badass.
Yeah.
Just a delight to watch the characters. And feels, as much as it's just feels like it should be really unrealistic, but it just feels like really realistic. And I feel like we talked about this off the camera before as well, that it feels like this is all just out there somewhere.
Absolutely.
What about your final thoughts then?
Yeah, very similar to you. I just everything you said. Plus, I just marvel at the filmmaking and how it all comes together, and the acting, and just like I said before, it seems to me like every little element of the show, they all elevate each other and make each other better.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all I've got to say, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All good. So that's our spoiler talk for Better Call Saul.
All right, man. Well, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Until next time.
Thank you. Until next
Cheers.
time.
All right, mate.
Bye-bye.
Bye.